Hey everybody, we're in the shop today, and while I'm waiting on some parts for everybody's projects, you remember everything is coming in real slow due to this virus, but we're going to work on getting the bell housing finished up for this PTO clutch that's going on the snowblower Jeep. This engine is going to drive the snowblower on the CJ5, and we have the PTO Rockford Clutch right there. I don't know if how many guys have been following along, but I have the 3/4 inch plate ring here, and I have our new plate made for the back of the engine there. And then I just rolled up a piece of 5/16 stock. I had a piece 4-inch wide, and that's the perfect width. So what I'm going to do now is start tacking it. I got everything jigged up and clamped. I'll tack it here. I've got to get basically this 4-inch piece attached to this plate. This could still go in and out, and I've got to set this one, but it's too hard to try and set both at once. So what I'm going to do is attach this to this engine plate, and then we will start moving that in and out until we get the right distance away from the flywheel that we need. And then we'll take everything off. We'll take the clutch off, we'll take the flywheel off, we'll take the bell housing off, and then I can finish weld it. But right now I've got the engine upside down, and I have the clutch upside down, and I'm getting it leveled up. I have the block jigged up so it's perfectly level. I have the PTO level, and just a matter of carefully tacking it up now, and little by little we'll get this put right into place. I have the bearing on this, and that's sitting in the flywheel, and I made sure everything is free spinning, nothing's binding or anything, and very carefully we'll go at this, and I'll show you the progress along the way. Okay, we got the motor back wrapped up again. I do have the crank on its bearings in there, so we're keeping it clean. Here is the flywheel off the engine, and I think you can see this little balance area. Okay, that's what it took to balance this guy. This entire flywheel was out 2 grams, and the guys that balanced it were pretty surprised about that. But you take your time and you set your stock up real good, nice and true on the lathe, and you start turning, and you're careful about your hole sizes and your depths that you're drilling and everything. You could come in real close. And 2 grams is pretty good, because when we're balancing an engine, we like the whole rotating assembly to be you know, within 4 grams. So I just wanted to see what it was. I knew it would be pretty close, but I didn't expect it would only be 2 grams. And that is a zero balance flywheel now. And I do get a lot of questions from guys on if you can use different flywheels and stuff. Willys motors were internally balanced, and you can see they added weights here, and they drilled them when necessary. So the crank is with what they call internally balanced, and with an internally balanced crank you can add any zero balance flywheel to it, and all the flywheels were zero balance back then, so you could take a flywheel from one motor and put it on another without messing anything up. This now is a zero balance, so if this motor were to explode, I could take this flywheel and put it on another F head and it wouldn't be a problem. So the bell housing is off there now. Flywheel's off. We're going to go over to the bench and jig that up and start welding it. I got to keep everything nice and true. I don't want anything to get distorted or anything, so I'm going to go a little bit at a time, weld it just in sections, and we'll head over there now and I'll show you what I got going on. Okay, first thing we're going to do is finish tacking up this back plate. This goes on the engine, starter goes in here. We're going to take little wedges and we are going to wedge this to the proper height. We're going to lay a straight edge across this every different way and make sure this is dead flat. We want this perfectly flat when it goes on the back of the engine. And it's just going to be a process. We'll tack it, you know, in a bunch of places. Like I say, we'll hit that with the straight edge all different ways across there. Make sure that is perfectly flat. We'll flip it over. We'll set our ring to the proper dimension off the inside of this plate, and we'll get that welded up as well. So it's going to be a long process welding this, and I'm going to go very carefully, and I'll show you different steps along the way. Okay, we've got our bottom piece that goes up against the engine tacked in there real good. And then what I did to keep this 3/4 ring at the right height, I have 8 little machinery jacks in there. And I've got the dimension I need. I took the caliper, went from the top to the base. We know that base is nice and flat. I checked it with a straight edge. And we've got those guys in there. And we're just going to jump around 6 or 8 different spots. We'll lay some tacks in there, and then we'll try it again on the engine. Make sure everything slides in perfectly. The bearing on that guy, we want to make sure that slides right into the flywheel. So a lot of trial and error, but we want to make sure everything is right. We already checked the starter out. We know that engages perfectly, so that's working good. But I just want to make sure that that PTO doesn't give me any grief going in or out. So let me get this tacked up, and we'll head back over to the engine, put everything back together again, and give it one final test before the final weld. Okay, here's our final test fit on the engine. Everything lined up just perfect. Shaft is spinning, there's no binding, it's not twisted or anything. This plate is nice and flat. So we're going to come in here. On this side we're going to run a TIG root. And then we're going to run another TIG root here. And then we'll probably finish that out with some 7018. And one thing, when they use these bell housings, like on the welders and stuff like that, inside here there was some gussets, triangular gussets. We're probably going to put some, I don't know, some plate in there to join this 3/4 plate to our engine back plate there. We're probably going to run some, I don't know, maybe 1.5 inches tall by 1/4 inch wide. We also have to put some kind of block with some threads in it to pick up the starter. I've got to put some slugs in there with some threads in it to pick up the starter. And there is some internal work, like I say, it needs to be done, but that's no big deal. Once I get the outside welded, you can see I ground here for a nice clean weld. Once I get it all welded, I'm going to sandblast it. Then we'll come back, we'll put the gussets in, we'll put the slugs in for the starter, and that'll finish up the bell housing. You know, we'll grind it smooth and everything. And then we've got to put a foot on the bottom to pick up a mount. So I'll fabricate a foot for that, and then we can start working on the I don't know what you call it, the base and the shroud and everything that's gonna house this in the back of the Jeep. But for now, the good thing is we can take this off. We know everything fits. I can put the motor back on a stand, and I can finish assembling this motor. It's been a long time, and it's been so busy I haven't gotten too much done on this. But like I say, with things the way they are, and parts coming in and paint and stuff, I got a little bit of free time. I don't want to go out of my mind not doing anything. So we'll pick up on this until some other things come in, and then we'll get back on customer projects. I hope everybody understands. There's not much I can do about it, but I'm trying my best. I'm in contact with my paint supplier, and like I say, we got some tires stuck somewhere in the middle of the country. I'm talking to these guys, but they're just not open. They're not shipping. They're not delivering. Nothing's happening. So we're gonna pick up on this F-head build and the whole cradle build for the engine, and get it in the Jeep. So that's where we're at right now, and I'll be back with you in a little bit and show you where I'm at on the bell housing. Okay guys, I'm just laying in a TIG root. I've got 3/32 tungsten. I'm feeding in some 1/8 inch rod. I've got, I don't know, 16th gap there, trying to get a full penetration root all the way around there. Some places are a little bit bigger or smaller than the other, but I got the machine maxed out about 200, and I'm not using full pedal, but pretty close to it. And I'm just going to jump from here in this area, probably go right directly across from there, quarter it, you know, just keep jumping around. I don't want to put a lot of heat in any one area. We're going to get this filled up, and like I say, we're probably going to come around here with some 7018 afterwards and cap it out, so we got some, you know, something that we can grind and round that corner over so it's not so sharp. But that's what's happening. Welding's going to take a little bit of time, so I'm going to get this finished, and I'll see you in just a little bit. Okay guys, got it flipped over now. We're going to start working on the other edge. You get you zoomed in there, and you can see we've got good 100% weld. Good reinforcement all around the inside. So I'm happy with that TIG root. We're going to lay another TIG root on this side. And then we'll finish it out. So it's a long process. Like I say, I'm jumping around, keeping it cool. I'm going to let it sit here for about 15 minutes and cool down. And then we'll get back to it. And we'll just keep on. It's just a process. You just gotta take your time. Don't rush it. Don't get it all twisted up with too much heat. Take your time. And if you're doing something like this, just be patient and don't overheat it, and it'll come out just like you want it to. That's the area down in there. That hole and that hole. We got to put something. We'll weld nuts in there, or make some plates that can catch the bolts for the starter. And then, like I say, we're going to put something, triangular gussets or square gussets, something in there to join the top and the back. So there's a lot to do on this. It's the little details that make it good. We don't want anything coming apart once it's attached to the engine. So now's the time to put all the reinforcement we need in there. So I'm going to continue on with this, and be back with you in just a moment. Okay guys, here we are on the bell housing again. I was going to take that out and sandblasted it, but after I gave it a quick wire brushing where I was going to weld, it looked clean enough. I'm running some 7018 over that TIG root, and just trying to get enough material in there so I can make a nice round over there with the grinder. I'll round that over. Flush this way, and then round it over so it's nice and smooth. And I know a lot of guys would just MIG that in, but it's just a personal preference. I like the penetration and the build of some 7018 here. No right or wrong. I just I prefer to run the arc bead on there. And while I was at it, I put the stiffeners on the inside. I put 6 pieces of I had some 1.5 by 3/8. That guy's getting heavy. Okay, let me see if I can get you focused in here. Okay, I've got those welded in 6 different spots around there, and they're out of the way of everything. They won't hit the flywheel or anything. They're just stiffeners. The originals were like that, and they're much heavier than the cast piece, but I still felt that I should put something in there to tie the side, the engine side, the PTO side, and the round side panel together. So I got, like I say, I've got 6 of them in there, 3/8 thickness, and they're welded in. It got kind of messy in there. It's kind of tricky. You can't really get on this side, so it's kind of just blindly feeling my way in there. But I've got good penetration on all those, and now we need to finish this outside with probably 2 beads of 7018, and everything is staying nice and true and flat and everything. The spacers in there are helping out, and we're gaining on it. So I'm going to run a few more pounds of 7018 around the outside there, and I probably won't get to grinding today, but at least I get all the welding done, and then I can grind it, and I can sandblast it, paint it, and put it aside until the engine's done. So I'll finish this side and be right back with you. Okay guys, here we are. All the arc welding is done. I ran all that out with 7018 1/8 inch at 127 amps. I've got a nice fill there. I didn't want to make it real high because I want to round that over real nicely, make it look like the cast iron one, and they had a real generous radius there, so we'll take the grinding wheel to that. So that is the finished bell housing. And you can see those inner braces I put in there. That's the finished bell housing. I'm going to grind it. I'm going to sandblast it. I'm going to put the starter bolts in there, and that's going to be it. But a lot of grinding coming next. There was a tremendous amount of fitting, test fitting, retest fitting, and tacking and welding today, so I've just about had it for today. But I'll get it ground, I'll get it sandblasted, and I'll show you the finished product, and then we'll let that sit, and I am going to begin finishing that engine. I'm still waiting on some parts for let's see if we can get in there. That's Ken's engine, you remember. Still waiting on some parts for that so I can finish boring, and I've got to get some valve guides in there, and I'm waiting on a cam bearing. So just a few pieces I'm waiting for on that. Tom's engine is just about finished, just waiting for a good day to get some finish paint on that, and then I'm going to hang the generator for him, and put the oil dipstick tube, and just some very minor things I have to go on his engine. And I'll take you back over to the F head that's going to power the snowblower. Now, I know in my last video I talked about rear main seals quite a bit. I do have one of my original old stock raw gaskets in here. Okay, the crank is in there with some assembly lube on it, and I have my shoulder bolts right there. And I started off with some longer bolts. They didn't work out. I got to put some shorter ones in there. But the crank will be out of here again. And I talked a little bit about those rubber dowels last time. When I know this crank's going in for sure, I will show you how I set those rubber dowels. I do something a little bit different. I will show you that. This engine right now is ready to come off this table that I had it jigged up on so I could do the bell housing. It's ready to go back on the stand. I have the stand right there. And guides are in. Valves are all finished on this one. We've got to resize some connecting rods for this and begin assembly. So there'll be a little bit more talk on the rear main seals, and a few guys wanted to see a rope seal go in, and I might do a quick installation video on that if anybody's interested. I think I explained it to the few guys that wanted it, how to go about doing it. But if there's enough interest in seeing a rope seal go in, just send me a comment below, and I'll grab a block and put a rope seal in for you guys if you need to see that. Other than that, we'll get moving on this, and then I got to get the clutch cleaned up and stuff. So that's a mess, but I'll get that in the parts washer, get that cleaned up, and we'll get this guy rebuilt and in the Jeep. So that's where we're at today. I'm going to leave off here. I will catch you on the next video. We'll probably be on another engine, or like I always say, if there's anything you guys want to see, let me know. I'll try and get it out there for you. But for now, we're real deep in engine work, and I'll try and get the rebuilds done and show you guys some tips along the way. And everybody stay safe out there. Enjoy the videos, and I will catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching.